Arsenal have mastered the corner. Here is exactly how they do it, and spoiler alert, they could get even more dangerous from the dead ball. So let's start with stage 1, the delivery. First of all, every single corner taken by Arsenal is pretty much always taken with an in-swinger. You see Bukayo Saka here delivering this with his left foot, and then we see the same again here with Declan Rice as he delivers with his right foot from the other angle. The in-swinger is way more effective for Arsenal because it's more aggressive and it allows them to get into the areas that they want. They have a specific area on every single corner that they try and attack. And that area that you can kind of very clearly see anyway in all these screenshots is inside this 6-yard box, but even more so this little tight area in front of the goal. Every single time they look to attack where the ball is just here and they look to place it in the same position every single time. Again, we can look at this Declan Rice corner and we see the ball in the same area. All of these were goals, by the way. And again, you see the tight little area that they cause the ball to be into as there's the ball right there. This puts the goalkeeper under immense amounts of pressure. But then also, you have to imagine from an expected goals perspective, the closer you can get the ball to the goal, especially in this kind of area, you create more opportunities for goals, you create opportunities for own goals, deflections. It's far easier to score right in front of the goal. That's pretty easy logic, but nonetheless an important stage in delivering their corners. Again, we see with this one against Brentford, they put this ball right under the goalkeeper in this little box, and you see the absolute mess of bodies that it creates. This ball will land about here, by which point it'll then be put into the goal, easy as you like. Stage 2 of Arsenal's corner routine is the most contentious, and that's the aspect of pinning. Whether it's pinning the goalkeeper like this clip from Senil and Menz, which went viral over the weekend after Manchester United played Arsenal, about whether or not this was legal. Now take this with a pinch of salt because this was before the corner actually went in, before the ball was in play. But the sole goal here being trying to keep Senil and Menz on his line and preventing the keeper from bothering this kind of landing zone that Arsenal create. Because really the only player that can stop this is the goalkeeper, because he can use his hands and go and grab the ball like this. So Arsenal do two types of pins every single corner. The first one, which I just kind of mentioned, is this right here, where they'll block off the goalkeeper. Usually it's Saliba who's on this duty, and he'll essentially try and make life as hard as possible for Bernd Leno or whatever goalkeeper they're facing this week. Again, this prevents him from being able to come out and allows for Saka to put this ball kind of into this area in which Leno can't come and claim it, and they're better. They back themselves more aerially than the Fulham defenders, and let's say Saliba, Gabriel, or whoever it happens to be can get on the end of it and finish for a goal. The second type of pin that Arsenal employ is this one right here with Jurrien Timber. And this one is always done on the front post, usually by Jurrien Timber, and this essentially blocks off that front post man from being a draft excluder. The biggest adage about set pieces is usually this ball into the box, and it's saying a bad corner taker won't be able to beat the first man. It's actually way easier to beat the first man when the first man is stuck to the ground, if he can't jump and stop the ball from going in. And then also, if it's a bad ball and this ball comes in here, Timber can flick it on and then put it back into the landing zone that we talked about, as we'll go back to this clip, where they try and put it in the same place, so sometimes it needs a Timber flick on. Now this one, you'll see a bit more. You see almost every single player in here will jostle for position. So this is a lot less likely to get called and get given as a free kick the other way, and that's why it's so effective for Arsenal. So how can we improve this for Arsenal, or for any team for that matter? And the answer is doing something that's employed by basketball teams called a down screen. A down screen is where this player right here will act as a screener and will block off the defender who is guarding him. Using this player will then come up the top and come round the screen, which then completely knocks off this defender as he runs into the screen, and he can either go underneath it, which will leave a bunch of space right here, or he can try and come over it and fight the screen, in which case this guy now has a full step on his man. Again, we see it here in this clip where this defender will come down, set the screen, then allows for his man to then come over, and he's now clean with no defender. Let's take this clip as an example. I want you to imagine that Trossard, instead of being stood right here, is instead stood right here. We are then going to use this wall of bodies right here to create a block, whether it's one or two of these defenders, maybe just one, and then we'll then use Trossard's run to bend to this back post where he's already stood. The ball can then come in from Declan Rice all the way to this back post, and there'll be absolutely nobody on Trossard because Alex Iwobi right here would be being blocked off. He's either got to go over or under, in which case he's wrong. It doesn't matter. And then you get basically a free header at the back post every time. You could also do this from the opposite way, where you send a blocker right here. This then creates a free lane for this man right here to come over the top and round the screen, which you can then use for a front post header. Once you do this and once you open this bag, you can really explore a bunch of different variations that we can take from basketball and lift. The idea of this is called a floppy screen, where you send your shooter around the outside, and that's exactly what we can do here for Gabriel Jesus. So that's enough ideas for Arteta to become even more dominant. So let's stop doing that, and let's talk about how we can actually use this to defend. If we go back to our basketball example, then we can use the idea of switch defenses to try and counter some of this. Too many teams are static in the way that they mark. They use these zonal hybrid systems that are outdated or not adapted to the new way, and they just allow for this big mess of bodies to kind of happen. Instead, we can use a different situation. So let's clear all this out. And we're going to look to, rather than assign players, we're going to have a switchable variation, which means that we're not tied to one situation or another, and it actually allows us to be more fluid. If we go back to our basketball example and you imagine these two are defending this screen, rather than having this man being solely responsible for trying to come over this screen or under the screen, either way he's wrong, which we just discussed, it's this man's responsibility right here to then play up on the screen and essentially block off this guy from being able to come forward. Using this example from Fulham, instead of it being Alex Iwobi who's responsible for going to the back post with Trossard, instead he stays with whoever this screener is, whoever sets this pick right here. And the man who's guarding, I would say, this guy right here, is then responsible for coming to the back post with Trossard. Now we can get a little bit funky with this in terms of switches, because you don't want to cause a switch where suddenly your 5'2" winger is guarding the centre back. That's not an ideal situation, but nonetheless, if you drill this, you can actually stop it quite comfortably. And finally, you do just have to be able to finish the ball. You're going to be able to put these in great situations. You could put a ball into the box on the exact point it needs to be. You could set a perfect down screen. You could set a perfect pick. You could set a perfect pin where you just make sure that everybody's in the right situation and you give yourself the best opportunity to score. But the fact of the matter is, not all of these would be goals for other teams. It's the dominance that Arsenal have that they managed to create these goals. For example, this goal from Havertz comes off this and then is put into the net by Gabriel. That's a corner routine that has been drilled relentlessly and benefits from elite finishers across their corner routine. So can just any team replicate this? Well, yes, and I think any team can stop it too. And I think there really needs to be more of an emphasis on this set-piece chess game than is being previously put into it. A lot of teams are failing to adapt to the new times, and a lot of fans agree with the same sentiment. They say game's gone when you're talking about set pieces, which I do somewhat agree. I don't love the set piece aspect of this game. However, if we are going to move to this, which it seems that we're going to based on the success that Arsenal have had, you have to employ a different approach to try and stop this from happening and to actually benefit from the situation. Football is in a very weird place right now where the coaches that do take advantage of it, like Arsenal and Arteta for this, this entire film study, can be the massive trailblazers and benefit. Eventually, the rest of the league is going to catch up, and there's going to be better defenses, there's going to be better tactics, there's going to be evolving things, and football is just really a big cycle. So teams that jump on this as early as possible, right now including this, and really look to implement those basketball tactics can go a very, very long way.